The cabin with no signal. I was looking for a quiet place to work on my book, a peaceful retreat with no distractions, no noise, no people. I found the listing on Airbnb late one night. Remote mountain cabin, perfect writer's escape. The photos were beautiful. Rustic, wooden interiors, a fireplace, surrounded by endless forest. The host, Clint, had great reviews. So peaceful, one read. Exactly what I needed to unplug, another said. That was what convinced me. The next morning, I booked 4 nights and hit the road. The cabin was 3 hours outside Asheville, up winding back roads and gravel paths that seemed like they'd never end. I lost cell signal halfway there. No big deal. I expected that. But the moment I pulled up, something felt off. It was quiet. Too quiet. Not a single bird. No wind. Just a heavy, oppressive silence that settled on my shoulders like a weight. The cabin looked just like the photos, but older, more weather-worn, almost forgotten. I tried calling Clint to let him know I arrived. No signal. I checked the Wi-Fi. No network. There wasn't even a router in sight. Still, I figured maybe the reviews were right. Maybe it was just a good place to disconnect. The first night, I lit a fire, made tea, and started outlining my book. Around 11 p.m., I heard something outside. Just a branch, I thought. Wind, maybe. But it didn't stop. Crunch. Pause. Crunch. Slow footsteps on gravel. I froze. Then came the knock. Soft. Deliberate. I looked through the peephole. No one. I waited, heart pounding. Then another knock. This time, at the back door. I didn't know there was a back door. Panicking, I grabbed the fire poker and crept through the cabin. The back door was partially open. Unlocked. I knew I hadn't touched it. There were muddy footprints leading inside. Bare feet. I called out. No answer. I locked both doors and turned off all the lights. Then I sat in the dark, listening. At some point I must have fallen asleep with the poker in my lap. I woke up to footsteps above me. The cabin had no second floor. The footsteps continued for at least an hour. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The next morning, I packed everything and left. I didn't even bother locking the door. I drove until I found cell service and called Clint. He answered, cheerful. I asked him who had been in the cabin. He paused. What do you mean? I explained everything. The knocks, the footsteps, the footprints. Silence. Then he said something I'll never forget. That cabin's been vacant since October. You were my first guest in 6 months. No one should have been up there. I reported the listing. It was removed a few days later. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if I had opened that door.
Room 203.
I needed a place to stay during my cousin's wedding in a small Texas town. All the hotels were booked except for a weird Airbnb listing for a Victorian guest room in historic estate. It was cheap, but had almost no reviews. Just one. Strange vibes, but okay for one night. I figured I'd only be there to sleep anyway. When I arrived, the property was larger than I expected. The house looked like something out of the 1800s. An elderly woman greeted me, thin, pale, with cloudy eyes. She introduced herself as Mrs. Holloway. You'll be in room 203, she said. The staircase creaked as I followed her up. At the end of the hall was a door with an ornate brass handle. She didn't unlock it. It was already open. Please don't wander, she warned. Some doors are better left closed. Odd, but okay. Room 203 was outdated. Floral wallpaper, a canopy bed, and an old armoire. There was no lock on the door from the inside. That night I returned from the wedding exhausted. I climbed into bed and dozed off around 2 a.m. I woke to the sound of my doorknob turning. Someone was trying to get in. Slowly. Deliberately. I called out. Hello? No answer. I opened the door. No one. The hallway was dark. Still. Back in bed, I heard a second noise. A whisper. I couldn't make it out. It came from the closet. I opened it, expecting to find an old coat rack. Instead, I found a second door. Smaller. Child-sized. It was padlocked. I stared at it for a while before climbing back into bed, too tired and freaked out to care anymore. Around 4 a.m., I awoke to my sheets being pulled off me. Not yanked, pulled slowly. Then a voice. "Room 213 is mine." I bolted out of bed and ran into the hallway. Mrs. Holloway was standing there, like she had been waiting. "You opened the closet, didn't you?" she said flatly. I nodded. "That door hasn't been touched in 50 years. She doesn't like that." I left that morning. No breakfast, no goodbye. The listing disappeared the next week. The locked basement. My boyfriend and I booked a long weekend in a farmhouse-style Airbnb just outside Nashville. The place looked charming in the photos: white walls, large windows, and a huge backyard. The host, Jeremy, left us a welcome note. "Mi casa es su casa, except the basement. Please don't open it." There it was, the one red flag. Naturally, we were curious, but we let it go. The first day went fine. We cooked, we watched movies, we explored the backyard. That night we heard banging from the floor below us. Rhythmic, heavy. We laughed it off, maybe old pipes or the house settling. The second night we heard a voice, faint, male. "Let me out." My boyfriend checked the basement door. It was locked tight with a rusted chain. I texted Jeremy. He replied, "House is old. No one down there. Don't worry." We didn't sleep. The third night I woke up to scratching beneath our bed. Not a rat, not an animal. It sounded like fingernails. We both jumped up terrified. The scratching stopped. Then the doorknob to the basement rattled violently. Jeremy wasn't answering our calls. The lock shook like it would burst open. We ran to the car, sat there until morning, and left without a word. A week later, I got a message from a random number. "Why didn't you let me out?" I reported the number. Nothing came of it. Later, I read a local article from 1998. A man had been kidnapped and held in a basement outside the city. The house matched the listing. Same layout, same front porch, same address. Jeremy's profile disappeared days later. I'll never stay in another Airbnb again.